mentioned in my kind of initial video for this project, talking about auditory processing disorder, or central auditory processing disorder. Growing up, I always had issues, especially with music. Never really got much into it. Music is very important to my father. He loves music, has a huge music collection. He listens to a wider range of bands, very much into blues, very much into classic rock, bands like Cream, Joe Cocker, Stevie Ray Vaughan, those kinds of things. And I never really got too much into that stuff. And there's a reason. I have always found it very difficult to listen to a song and really understand what the song is about. So for example, I'll listen to a song. Generally, I'm not going to be able to tell you what that song is about. I can listen to it and enjoy the song, enjoy the melody, enjoy the lyrics, all that stuff, but I have a hard time picking out the actual lyrics of the song and understanding what it is. There is a clip I'm going to try to find from the TV show The Office that was kind of used as a comedy bit, but it really does a good job of kind of explaining how my brain processes auditory stimuli. And it's what eventually led me on to discovering what central auditory processing disorder is. I'm going to try to find that and put it in so you guys can sort of hear that, and hopefully that helps understand it. But I'm going to explain to you what auditory processing disorder is, how it affects my listening to music, how's it treated, where does it come from, and what resources are out there. So, this is kind of for your information. If you're interested in learning this stuff, please continue listening, and we'll go into it. What is auditory processing disorder, or CAPD? It's a breakdown in the translation process between the ears and the brain. While physical ears can sort of typically hear sounds at a normal volume, the brain's central nervous system struggles to interpret and organize that information accurately. It's essentially like having a shaky Wi-Fi connection. The data is being sent, but it arrives garbled and kind of out of sync sometimes. Multi-step verbal instructions, it makes it very difficult to filter out background noise. So if I'm in a crowded area and there's a lot of stuff going on, I have a very hard time focusing on one person and hearing what they're saying and understanding what they're saying. Like, I can hear what they're saying generally, but I can't filter out the background stuff. If there's too much stuff going on, sometimes I will end up focusing on something else. Like I'll hear a TV on or something like that, and I'll latch onto that and I'll hear that, and that's all I really hear. And I realize that the person I've been talking to has been going on for however number of minutes, and I have no idea what they're talking about. But it makes it difficult to filter out that background noise, follow like multi-step verbal instructions, distinguish between sort of similar sounding words. In daily life, this often kind of comes out as like a processing delay, where it takes a few extra seconds to turn spoken sounds into like meaningful concepts, words, especially in these loud, chaotic environments. And so kind of a byproduct of that is in those situations, I don't say hardly anything. I don't say things. I stay quiet because I haven't been able to follow the conversation, and I don't want to be rude. And I don't want to ask questions of, "Okay, can you repeat that?" Because, I don't want to be annoying. That's kind of who I am. It's one of the things I'm working on with my mental health and with discovering myself and doing all that stuff. But how does this sort of affect me listening to music? For someone with CAPD, listening to music can be complex. Sometimes it can be an overwhelming experience because the brain has to track multiple layers of sound. So it tracks the melody, the harmony, the rhythm, the lyrics simultaneously. It essentially turns a leisure activity to like a high-intensity decoding task. So I'm listening to music, and if I'm trying to understand what the song is about, I don't enjoy the music. My brain is too busy trying to filter out and decode the song. Here's how it kind of impacts. Lyrical confusion. The static in processing makes it difficult to separate the vocalist's voice from the instruments. It often leads to mondegreens or misheard lyrics. I have this problem all the time. For the longest time, I thought, "Here I Go Again on My Own." I thought part of that song was like a twister. I was born to walk alone for some reason. And there's a comedy bit about Creedence Clearwater's Bad Moon Rising. That you hear it as there's a bathroom on the right when there's a bad moon on the rise. Happens. There's a lot of songs out there that I have thought had different lyrics for the longest time. Believe me. Complex arrangements with heavy distortion or like dense layering can make words feel entirely lost in the mix. I can just not understand what they're saying in the song at all. There's a wall of sound effect. I don't mind walls of sound. I mean, with heavy metal, that's what you get a lot of. Rather than hearing a crisp separation between drums, bass, guitar, my brain kind of fuses them into a single muddy wall of noise. This makes it hard to pick out specific riffs or follow a particular instrument's progression unless it is very distinct. So think the riff from like Deep Purple's "Smoke on the Water," or the bass line from Another One Bites the Dust, or Under Pressure. You know, it's like very distinct music, very distinct beats. We Will Rock You. I can follow that. I can understand. I can get that, no problem. But beyond that, it all starts to get lost. I can't hum a song back to you unless it's very distinct like that. There's difficulty with nuance. Subtle elements like a quiet acoustic guitar track under a loud drum beat might be missed entirely. I might completely miss the drum solo. I was going back and listening to Queen's, kind of doing a deep dive on Queen's catalog, and there's a song of theirs I like called "Invisible Man," and I liked it. I really did. But I sat and really listened to it and discovered that there is a insane guitar solo, very briefly in that song for maybe 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 30 seconds. But if you know the song, you can listen to it, you can hear that beat, and it is just mind-blowingly like Brian May. Wow, that was amazing. And I'd listened to that song hundreds of times over the last 20, 30 years. And that just blew me away. You know, I had never heard it listened to that song before because I couldn't focus on it. But if I'm trying real hard to focus, I can get that stuff, but it's exhausting. My brain tends to prioritize the loudest, most consistent sound, masking the finer details that provide emotional depth to a song. You know, I'll just miss that stuff. I just said it's exhausting. I get rapid processing fatigue. High-tempo music or genres with aggressive, shifting time signatures like technical metal, complex jazz can be mentally exhausting for me to listen to. The brain is working overtime to map the rhythm, which can lead to sensory overload rather than enjoyment. And most likely being on the autism spectrum and having levels of ADHD, when I get overstimulated, I'll shut down. My battery drains. And then, you know, I just can't do it. So that sensory overload happens a lot. Discovered that I get a preference for clarity, as I've mentioned. Many people with this gravitate towards cleaner productions or specific versions of songs, like acoustic sets, live bootlegs with distinct vocal tracks, or high-fidelity pressings where the separation between the elements is way more pronounced. This kind of manifests with me into going with specific artists. like Queen, like Freddie Mercury, who has a very distinguishable sound, very distinguishable voice coming out that I can really latch onto. Ultimately, while like the emotional connection to the music remains just as strong, there are songs that do hit me very deeply. One that comes to mind is "Home" by Blue October. It's a very emotional song. It hits me very deeply. There's songs that I absolutely love. "Radio Gaga" by Queen is absolutely one of my favorite songs of all time. The mechanical act of listening requires a lot more manual effort for my brain to make sense of the arrangement. Well, how is CAPD treated? Managing central auditory processing involves like a three-tiered approach that combines physical and environmental changes, cognitive brain hacks, and targeted auditory exercises. By using tools like noise canceling technology or preferential seating, the listener, me, I can physically clarify incoming sound, while compensatory strategies such as utilizing visual aids and active listening techniques, like a lot of music services have a lyrics option. That really helps me a lot, since I can kind of follow along and hear that. The problem with that is then I'm focusing on the lyrics. I'm not hearing the band, the other music going on, the other sounds going on. So it's a trade-off and takes a lot of work. Those help fill in the gaps where audio data is lost. And additionally, direct remediation through specialized auditory training software can leverage neuroplasticity to strengthen the brain's ability to decode and organize sound more efficiently over time. So there are various things. I'm not in any kind of specific treatment program for CAPD, nor have I really been officially diagnosed with it because my insurance will not cover the testing. But I've had an audiologist. Basically, I've explained to him all this stuff, and he's been over it. I've had the testing that my insurance will cover, and he said, "Yeah, I think you have this. I think you have it." Usually, it is diagnosed in children, but sometimes not. Apparently, it affects 5 to 7% of kids, and it's not really they don't really know too much about where it comes from. So it typically originates from a combination of either genetic predisposition, developmental factors, or acquired neurological changes. In many cases, it's hereditary or linked to delays where the brain's wiring, specifically the pathways connecting the two hemispheres, develops more slowly or less effectively. It can also be triggered by early childhood experiences such as chronic ear infections that disrupt sound input during critical growth periods, or acquired later in life through head trauma, illness, or age-related neurological decline. I don't have any of that. I didn't have multiple head injuries. I didn't have any of that stuff. I didn't have multiple ear infections. So really, it's probably a genetic thing, maybe. Ultimately, while the physical ears remain functional, those various causes lead to a sort of a central nervous system that struggles to accurately map and interpret electrical signals it receives when it's auditory. What resources are out there for those of you? If this sounds familiar to you and you are like, this, I need some help. There's some legal advocacy, workplace support. There's advanced assistive technology. There's the National Coalition of Auditory Processing Disorders, NCAPD, and the Job Accommodation Network provide a framework for understanding legal rights and requesting formal accommodations in professional or academic settings. On a practical level, individuals can leverage high-tech solutions such as FM systems, which beam a speaker's voice directly to the listener, and like AI-powered transcription apps that provide a visual record of spoken information. So taking a transcript of a podcast or of a lecture, those sorts of things. Together, those resources allow for a sort of comprehensive support system that addresses the condition through both policy-driven environmental changes and real-time technological assistance. But that is a big impetus as to why I never got into music. I had no idea until recently. So thanks for hearing me go on about it. That's a big part of why I am doing this. So thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you guys later. Love you all.